All right. All right, here we go. So yeah, first of all, Hafaday and good morning to each and every one of you. We are super excited here at Docomo Pacific to start our first ever webinar series of our Docomo Pacific Tech Talks. We have a ton of great information to share with all of you today. But first, let me go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Russell Ocampo. I'm the Senior Marketing Manager here with our enterprise team. And I'll go ahead and let my lovely co-host go ahead and introduce herself to you today.
Hafaday, good morning. My name is Cleas Nicholas, Enterprise Segment Marketing Manager of Docomo Pacific. So throughout the first issue of Tech Talks, Russ and I explore current trends within the business community and invite a guest speaker every session who has subject matter expertise related to today's theme. Today's theme is uniting the virtual workforce with unified communications. And here with us is our very special guest who hails halfway across the world from the East Coast and is a senior product marketing manager of Microsoft herself. Ladies and gentlemen, Jamie Schofield. Please, Jamie, the floor is open to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thanks, Clea. I wish I knew how to say half a day. Am I saying that right?
That's perfect.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. So as Clea said, yes, I'm here in New York and coming to you live from a tool that actually represents what we're talking about today. So a little bit about myself. I guess the best way to explain myself would to say that I'm a career product marketer. I started in telecommunications as a customer account manager back at MCI when MCI still was a thing. And from there, I went into sales and I learned how to sell telecommunication services to some of the larger national accounts in the United States. And at the risk of dating myself, I was at MCI when e-commerce was first becoming a real threat to brick and mortar businesses. And I was part of the team that sold Barnes & Noble their e-commerce website presence to compete with then newcomer Amazon.
Wow.
So that was exciting for me and really got me really loving the field of telecom. And I've been here ever since. So after MCI was acquired by WorldCom, I saw the writing on the wall and I got out. And I joined a local CLEC here on Long Island, New York, serving the tri-state area. And I joined as a product manager. And so I left the world of sales and I got into defining voice and data products. From there, I got into product marketing. And that's how I started getting involved with Hosted Voice and also Metaswitch. We became a Metaswitch customer. I helped define and launch that product and really got involved in product marketing and started to realize how important product marketing is to a successful launch for any company out there, especially an operator. So fast forward a few years and I ended up at Metaswitch because I was a very satisfied customer and I loved the idea of helping operators build their products, launch their products. So I kind of came in and from the ground up have learned about hosted voice, unified communications, and I've been working with operators all over the globe for the last 3 to 4 years, helping them define these offers, understanding their markets, the trends, the competition that they face. And I guess that's why Docomo has invited me to help today to educate all of you on UC and how it's going to help this new world that we're living in.
Yeah, definitely. And man, it's such a wealth of knowledge and tons of great experience that you bring in. We're very fortunate to have you here as really our first speaker on this fantastic web series that we're putting together. So, to kind of set the stage and kind of just understand really this pivot and the shift in the global environment, right? Can you kind of just share with us just a little bit about your interpretation and your perspective of really this pivot of this kind of work from home, telework type of mentality and how businesses can really use the technology at their disposal to really be part of this new norm that we've been talking about for the last 2 years now?
Sure. And I want to be careful here because I know in the news, I'm sure you guys have seen things like Elon Musk saying everybody must go into the office, and there's the financial firms are a little bit more hesitant to have people work from home. So I like to be careful. It's not just working from home; it's a distributed workforce, it's hybrid workplace, it's things like we're doing right now, right? We're localizing a global a situation. So I like to think of it more like this. So even before the coronavirus outbreak, people worked from home. it was a much smaller percentage. It might be limited to certain fields. But there were about 5 million US workers who worked from home before COVID. Now, I'm just reading a quote that I have here because I want to make sure I get this right. According to Fundera, the number of employees offering a work from home option has grown by 40% in the past 5 years. That was written in early 2021. So that number has actually probably increased. But there's a bunch of different triggers. So COVID definitely has been a huge one. You all might have heard Satya Nadella from Microsoft when he made a keynote speech about 2 years ago that said that COVID has increased the digital transformation by 10 times because it forced people to start thinking about things differently. But in addition to that, there's generational change. There's millennials who they're the largest percentage of the workforce now, right? And they can work from anywhere. They're a mobile generation. Gen X, also a digitally native generation. These individuals were born basically to the world of smartphones. So, and we also know, and apologize for people that might be millennials or Gen Z, these are individuals that if they don't like the environment that they're in, they'll find another one. They're not from that older school where you just had a job and you went with it, right? So they're looking to be supported for what they think is the right way to go. Globalization, like we talked about, and then even shared work environments. Here in New York, obviously, it's very expensive to rent office space in Manhattan. So WeWork is still, even though the company suffered a little bit, there's still a lot of WeWork spaces. I'm not sure if that's like that in Guam. I would imagine it's a bit different, but those are definitely contributing to this need to be mobile. And then, of course, the expense of business travel. And now with still a lot of travel restrictions, like even to come back to the US, if I leave to go see another country, I need to test negative when I get back. So there's still a stigma on traveling. So this UC world helps solve for those problems.
Yeah, I love that you pointed out, just that remote working has been the norm even before the pandemic started. And, regardless of the pandemic, a lot of our employees or customers or people in the world have been teleworking and trying to marry that and bridge that with the current workforce. But like you said, it has grown drastically within the pandemic 10 times, right? And so there's the surge and demand for something to bridge all of our employees together, and that need for just being flexible. And a lot of our businesses are rooted in a solid communication infrastructure. How do you, wouldn't you agree that there's a need for flexible communication and something just to collaborate all of our workforces?
100%. And one of the things that we saw from the Metaswitch side, which is a Microsoft company, like you guys stated originally, was operators like yourselves had to scramble because businesses were going to operators saying, we need a solution. So, and that's why unified communications and other technology have just grown so exponentially in the last 2 to 3 years, because businesses are looking for ways to connect their employees to each other, connect their employees to their partners and customers, enable collaboration without being in person. It's, anyone can make a phone call, but how do you extend that to be something that feels in a collaborative environment, and also keeping that feeling of camaraderie? It's working with people over the phone only, or just through email, or just through instant message isn't the same as this experience that we're having right now.
Right.
Now we're not collaborating, we're sharing information, but we could, put up a PowerPoint and make edits on the fly, right? So that's part of it. So there's a couple of different facts that businesses need to be ready for. One, like I said, connect and collaborate from anywhere, everywhere, anytime. That's something that's important as well. Going across time zones, how do we make that work without disrupting people's personal lives to a crazy amount, right? I mean, right now it's 7:15 my time, not too bad, but we have to find other ways to work together as collaborators. Another thing that's important is a holistic strategy. So being able to, as a business, get all of these different tools from one solution, whether it's instant message, phone conversation, voice to text, email to fax, video conference, SMS from a mobile client to a phone client. That is a blessing to an enterprise because they don't have to manage all these different endpoints and different contracts and different technologies. So that's why unified communications is such a godsend, because it does bring all of that together.
Awesome. And yeah, I think you definitely said it in that statement that we live in a world of connectivity now, right? So I think for many of us here in the room and many of our attendees, like we could be traveling to a different part of the world, or visiting a friend in a different village. But when your connection goes down, it's like you're lost and you can't be connected to the world. So having the right technology and these tools definitely are paramount and really our lifestyle now today, not only in the workplace, but even in our personal lives, right? So super fantastic point. And it really is what's connecting us with really everything today.
Absolutely. I just want to, on something that you said that's really important,
Yep.
Your connection going down. So unified communication comes in many different flavors, but the reliability and security of getting it from someone like yourselves, a Docomo, who provides the access as well, is also something very important that businesses should be considering.
Absolutely. And to kind of set the stage, and we've been hearing this great word, unified communication, UC, in this conversation that we're having today. But we probably have members of the audience who are like, what is unified communication? So we have a quick poll that we're going to be putting out really quick to members of our audience. Really just to see for those of you in attendance, how many of you have heard of it, yes or no? It's really just that simple. So I believe it's going live now, right? So yeah, please get your responses in and let's take a look based on our attendees here. How many of you have heard of unified communication? Well, here we go. It's like a rat race. All right, so I think we're getting a really good percentage that, we're pretty about 50-50 for now. So we'll give you guys another maybe 10 seconds to get your responses in. But yeah, please hit the poll button and then we'll kind of go from there. Fantastic. Well, great. So I think based on the feedback so far, we have about a total of 12 responses. 67% of our attendees today say that they've heard of unified communication. So Jamie, can you tell us a little bit more about what unified communication is? And
sure,
really,
actually,
yep.
Yeah, sometimes it's called UC&C for Unified Communications and Collaboration, because it also involves the collaboration aspect. So in short, it's messaging, which is like a persistent chat, so that you have the history of the chat within your client, voice and video calling, meetings like this, team collaboration. I see somebody put Microsoft Teams in the comments, and I will address that later on. File sharing, things like you can attach a file into a meeting chat or an IM chat, and then integrated applications. Many different types of applications can be integrated into a unified communication, such as Salesforce.com or Sugar CRM, Oracle, because what you're doing now is bringing the business workflow into the collaboration amongst your employees, making it easier for them because they don't have to keep leaving their environment to go do something. They could do it right within the client.
All right, and I can agree with that.
That's the short answer.
Always the best when everything is just in one platform, right? I don't have to
Exactly.
let me open like 5 different applications on my computer and then try to get it all talked together. But with unified communication, it's kind of all built in a one-stop shop, right? So super fantastic. And Clay, please.
Yeah, no, it puts the word unified and unified communications all unified in one platform. But, for our viewers out there, so unified communications is this type of business phone communication system. For those who don't really know the traditional phone system, and we want to kind of do some comparison, because a lot of us know that there's a traditional phone system, basic calling and receiving, but how does this stack up against UC, that's supposed to unify all of these collaborative, amazing tools? And it's changing the game. It's really the next step in business phone. So how does that measure up to it?
Well, Couple of things. So a traditional phone system, if we're talking about a premise-based system where the equipment is actually sitting within the business's telephone closet or however you want to look at it, those are becoming somewhat antiquated. They have a lot of great features and functionality, but all of those features are also now carried into the UC services, which are now hosted in the cloud. So because they're hosted in the cloud, they scale, right? So just picture a small business that might have a small traditional phone system, like maybe a key set or even just POTS lines. Let's say they add 10 employees. It's not so easy to give those people access, right? You have to either add new phones, you have to add new trunks to handle that new capacity. With UC, it's all in the cloud, so it's just software and programming to give additional access lines to those additional employees. And then all the features and flashy things we've talked about, they're also in the cloud. So you don't have to get them right away if you don't need those pieces, but you can add them later without investing in a lot of hardware. There is no CapEx investment in a UC solution where there is in a private branch exchange or legacy PBX system. So that's a huge difference. So flexibility, affordability is a big one. And the other thing is security and reliability. So because it's in the cloud, if the cloud doesn't go down, so it just reroute traffic, right?
Right.
So
Absolutely.
so it keeps the user up and going, even if there's some type of catastrophe at the site. So whether it's a flood or a power failure, or in the world of telecommunications, we know that backhoes might pull up fiber from the ground, but because it's in the
We've
cloud,
experienced our share.
yes, I'm sure people on this call have heard these things before, but because it's in the cloud, it just has built-in redundancy and diversity.
That's a beautiful thing. Definitely knowing that no matter what the world puts on it, it's definitely going to work, and you'll still have that access via the cloud. So super fantastic.
Yep.
Thank you for that.
I like that you touched on security and reliability, because I think a lot of our attendees or for our viewers out there, traditionally, a lot of it's on site, right, in terms of the phone infrastructure. And so because we are in a region too that's typhoon prone, right, we want to make sure that our communication infrastructure is solid and can withstand that kind of damage. But saying that unified communication is all in the cloud, that in itself is secure, like you said, and reliable in itself, because everything, if it's scalable with these features and you can add in users and detract them. But I'm curious as to, now we're going into this unified communications, and who is this really beneficial for? It's, of course, we're mobilizing the workforce, but maybe like, would this be for like a good real estate company, or can you shed some light on that one as well?
Sure. It's honestly, all businesses can benefit from unified communications, regardless of the size. I think the most obvious fit, though, is in that SMB side. One, because let's face it, budgets are not enormous these days. So getting all the bells and whistles of an advanced phone system, but the affordability of unified communications is definitely attractive. Like that scalability piece that I talked about, I think is also a huge draw, especially because there's, maybe someone starting out a little bit small. They might only have 2 or 3 employees, but they quickly can grow. It's easy for them to add those other users, the other functions. I think the other thing too is another big trend is the digital workforce, right? So it's not just that we work on phones, tablets, desktops. And the other thing about unified communications is that you can make seamless transitions from one device to the next. So somebody that might be, maybe they're traveling and they're running from a client meeting to an internal business call, they could take that right from their mobile phone. As they arrive back at their office, they can seamlessly transfer it right back to either their desk phone or their desktop, depending on what works better for them. So that's another part of it. So it's the scalability, the flexibility, but also the ability to work under the different circumstances that we're all now working towards.
Wow. So Jamie, you're telling me that like I could be like at my desk right now, be in a business call, but let's say I have to go on an emergency to take care of something. I can just transfer that phone call from my desk phone to my mobile phone. Is that right?
Correct.
Cool. Then
Absolutely.
I can continue that call while I get out the door, get into my car, still continue business even if I'm away from the office. Wow, that's great.
Yes. So it's making you more productive and more efficient as an employee, which is going to help the overall business, right?
Fantastic. Yes, and you mentioned, right. So this is just one of those key features between the hard desk phone, traditional desk phone that we have, and the mobile phone. But there's also capabilities within people's laptop or desktop computers. Is that right?
That's correct. So you can either have you can have a soft phone, which would, but the soft phone goes on the desktop, but it could also go onto the mobile device as well. But yes, it has your device will act as a phone. It'll have all the same features that you have on your desk phone, but now it's on your laptop or does anybody not have a laptop these days? I mean,
Right. I can hear you.
hard to picture. Hard to picture. But yeah, so let's say that I'm working on a document and it's easier for me to talk about what I'm doing by keeping my document open and making the phone call from there. I don't have to dial. So my company directory goes right into the client. So it's LDAP. So basically, if you use Outlook, it feeds right into that, and you can just click on someone's name and click to dial. You can message them also from your laptop. You don't have to do something in a separate client. So yeah, makes it
Awesome.
easy to be digital.
Great. And when you mean client, right, that's really just the technology that we're using, the platform itself. Is that right?
Yeah. So yeah, the client is just the instance that would get installed onto your device.
Awesome. And I guess one great scenario that I've heard so much about is especially, we have a lot of business travelers that may be traveling to the mainland US or to Japan or to South Korea on business. So with this technology, they could still be receiving calls from their desktop phone number, but be receiving it in a different country. Is that right?
Yeah, so that's another part of the word unified, right? So your phone number travels with you everywhere. So whether you're taking that call from your cell phone, another thing that some unified communications platforms have, not all of them do, yours does, but it allows you to use the native dialer within your cell phone, but have your business identity. So you don't have to give out your personal cell phone, but you can still carry your cell phone around with you and still be connected to work.
Right, I love that. So I can
if
still have
that's what you
my
wanted.
mobile number and my work number on one device. That's beautiful.
Correct. And you don't have to, right. So you don't have to give out your personal number to your work relationships and vice versa. So that's another part of the word unified. So that's how it works all over the world. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think as a business owner and just as an employee, right? I think our constant worry is making sure that we, to our eyes of our employees or our workplaces, we're productive and we're efficient. And to owners, that's their worry. They want to make sure their company is working in a good productivity rate. So I do love that you mentioned that, because in a way, unified communications is really riding the wave of digital transformation. And for our local businesses, what would it mean for them to be future proofed, in general, because this is a global trend. We're going into a digital world already.
Yeah, one of the things I like to talk about is that with unified communications, you could have a 2-person business give off a global presence, right? Because you're not limited by geographic boundaries. You're not even limited by telephone numbers anymore, right? Because this can all be done through an email, an IM, or whatever, and that's your identity. So like when I click to dial Clea, I'm clicking on Clea. I'm not dialing I'm sorry, I don't even know your area code. I should know that. But
671 and 670.
Got it. I should know that. But so you're making the world smaller in a way, but you can give this huge impression. Plus, because you can have somebody that is traveling with their phone. Let's say I use this when I train sales teams. let's say that you're like a small bakery, right? And you want to, you want to appear like a much bigger bakery. Just with 2 or 3 phones and the different features in unified communications, you can give the impression of being a much bigger shop. You can have like auto attendants that give a menu and they route to the different groups, right? To make a new order, to request a brochure. What are your hours, right? So, but that could be 2 people that work there, but the person that calls would never know that because they hear this menu of all these different options. And so that's a big use case that I see a lot in the small business world. So I think that's a huge benefit to businesses, especially in Guam, knowing your market, because we've talked about the different markets that you guys are serving. I think that's a huge benefit for that, and also for the tourist market, because they might shrink and grow with the seasons, right? In terms of staffing. So it's easy to also shrink and enlarge your unified communications services as the trend needs it. Another big benefit, I think we just got to mention this before, the whole traveling aspect, because you're still supplying your local number, right, to people that are calling you, and you could be doing your unified communications from your cell phone or your mobile device over a Wi-Fi network.
Yep.
You're avoiding any type of data charges when you're roaming outside of your service area. So that's another big benefit to the business side.
Yeah, and I think for travelers, out there, like for me, for example, I love to travel the world myself. But I think the first thing that we all look for is where's the next Wi-Fi signal, and it's practically everywhere now in all the places we go. If it's in public places, coffee shops, hotel rooms, and like you mentioned, like if we are disconnected to Wi-Fi, especially with this technology being on the cloud, once we have a stable, Wi-Fi connection or internet connection, then this technology will work, right? So that's super fantastic. And for those of us that do roam as well, you're already, if you're using our data to go plan in certain countries, then you can just be making your calls through the data and not avoiding those charges on the regular line. But once again, if you're just on any Wi-Fi connection that's available within that particular country, then yeah, you're golden and you can continue the work seamlessly through this platform. Fantastic. Really good stuff.
Yeah,
All right,
no, sorry. I really do love that point about scalability, and because we think of scalability as just expanding in terms of unified communication, expanding through users. But what we want to root down that too is also it helps us make these critical business decisions if I wanted to expand my own business itself. Right. So in your case of a bakery, right, you can have these automated and make yourself look big, but also making yourself look larger in terms of expanding possibly to a food delivery system. But then unified communications seamlessly integrates into that. Wouldn't you agree? So super scalable.
Yeah, I mean, you could have multiple business presences, right? Just by having different auto attendants for the different business, right? So if I was the bakery venturing to be a food delivery service, right, I can have a separate auto attendant created for that, and nobody outside of the organization would know that it's just still me.
Right, absolutely. Really good points and super fantastic. And I see that we do have a comment on the chat here from Arnell that I kind of just want to read out. But yeah, he makes a good point that traditional small businesses are still using on-premise servers. But the pandemic, like we mentioned, has accelerated really the use of newer technologies to really improve their overall work environment and experience, right? So he mentioned that, shifted to Microsoft 360 and majority of the cloud services, especially for traveling overseas and utilizing his 4G LTE mobile hotspot when needed.
Exactly.
So, beautiful. And Arnell, thanks for that, because that's really what we were just discussing, that just as long as you have the right technology and you have that internet and stable internet connection, then you can work from anywhere in the world. Fantastic. All right, so let's see here. We got a couple more minutes before we get into Q&A. But really, with these industry trends kind of in the market, how would you say that, let's say the folks in America right now are adapting to the shift? Is there a huge, I know you mentioned at the beginning of the presentation that there's about a 40% increase on people really working in kind of this new hybrid type of environment. But what's the take-up looking like from people converting from traditional phone systems to really unified communications or these other technologies?
So I think the biggest trend that you see is the desk phone is sort of going, I wouldn't say it's going away because it still has a use. There's different types of workers now, right?
Mhm.
You have office workers, you have, I'm trying to remember, frontline workers, which with the pandemic, the frontline worker became people who work in warehouses, people who work in supermarkets, doctors, nurses, anybody who's, I'll just say front facing, right? So those individuals have different work needs or different equipment needs than someone like me who's an office worker, right? So
Right.
I primarily use my laptop for communications, right? Because
Right.
I use my client to make phone calls. I use my meeting client to have collaborative conversations. I have a mobile phone, but it's not company provided. It's my personal phone. I don't actually need a company phone anymore because I do it all through here. And the phone number that I'm given works as a phone number on my laptop. You can call me, my laptop will ring, you know. So I think that's one of the trends. So I would call that device agnostic, that unified communications needs to be and is device agnostic, because depending on the type of user you have, they may have different hardware requirements. That's a
Right.
big one.
Right.
Integration has become extremely important. Going back to the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of businesses found themselves stuck. Like, okay, we're not allowed to go into an office, but I'm not set up for this. What do we do?
Exactly.
So, right, and we might come to this question again a little bit later, but it fits right now. Mostly everybody has Microsoft 365 licenses on their laptops or their computers. So Teams became a default or a de facto way to collaborate, meaning instant message and meetings with people that were in your company, right? So that was a no-brainer for many businesses. But now what? Now you want to have that person who's working from home talk to your partners or talk to their customers. Teams wasn't going to help them do that.
Mhm.
So that's where now it was like, okay, we need to start integrating. Okay, so now Teams has ways of integrating, but then what do you do about the software systems that your employees are using? Like I said before, Salesforce, Sugar, financial systems, call centers. And that's another big one, right? Because call centers, they weren't allowed, the call center reps were doing that from home. Well, you don't have the big, wall boards that are up in a call center showing the traffic and hold time and reporting and all that. So integration with call center or cloud contact center, those are other trends. And then another big one is obviously integration with SMS. Because if you are using a cell phone, do you really want to have to carry two different cell phones with you? I don't.
I don't too.
Right. So I like that I can integrate and I can send SMS messages through my mobile client as well.
Wow, fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that Metaswitch now a Microsoft company, and as we wrap up here before Q&A, I just wanted to kind of pick your brain on you have such a great, amazing experience and lots of decades of experience with the telecommunication industry and just communication platforms in general. But you yourself, being that senior product marketing expert in that, how do you see the forward trajectory and just the future of business phone communications?
Well, it's a lot of it's about the hardware, because since endpoints are becoming mobile, hardware is becoming mobile. So rather than saying desk phones are not needed anymore, we're seeing desk phones now that are being made to be Bluetooth capable, Wi-Fi capable, so that they can move with the person using them. For the person who needs desk phone bells and whistles, right? That's a big one. I said this earlier, the premise PBX, it's dying. And this is not something that's limited to, I think, this service. I think you'll see that many things are moving to the cloud and equipment is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So we're no longer going to see these big phone closets that are dedicated to a PBX and all the different T1 cards that hold it and all that type of stuff. That's one. Another big one that we're seeing, I don't know, I'm guessing you guys have a lot less legacy TDM services than we do here in the States, but VoIP is going to replace TDM. SIP trunks will become the norm. It's already happening in London. They have a deadline, I think, of next year, I want to say, to get rid of all of their TDM endpoints. So that's a huge trend that we're seeing. And then back to integration, Teams integration is a huge one. So for those businesses that I mentioned before that began to use Teams are now looking for ways to continue to use Teams, but for outbound calling, right?
Right.
So there's outside of their coworkers. So there's a couple of options there, and they're becoming more and more common, more and more demanded. So some of those include things like using direct routing, which for those of you who don't know, is just taking a SIP trunk and connecting it from your instance of Teams to Microsoft phone system using your operator. So in this case, it would be Docomo, who would then supply your access to the public switch telephone network so you can make phone calls outside of your company. Other ways of doing that are unified communications providers. Metaswitch is one. Obviously, Docomo has our services, where the mobile client that Docomo sells, which is called Docomo UC, can provide the dial tone within Teams. And this seems to be a very popular way to do it, because what it means is the person who's working in Teams can click to dial without having to leave Teams. They don't have to go to their desk phone if they don't want to. They can, collaborate with that person right from their Teams client. So this is a huge trend. And we're seeing a lot of businesses coming to us for that. We're seeing a lot of operators looking for ways to meet their business needs. So I would say that's probably the number one.
Wow.
The number
Absolutely.
one trend.
And you said it, Matt. I think the truth is you said it many times this morning and this evening on your side, but it's really the integration portion is really, making significant progress, right? Like, I believe this technology is one of the newer things that have rolled out. And it's just, man, it's like, you're really just not going to need your mobile phone and just your laptop to really do everything, right? From anywhere, right? So that's a super amazing.
From anywhere, right? Anywhere, anytime, any way. I think that's like that, again, back to that unified, right? Making that one connection I can do all of that with.
I love that. Anytime, anywhere, fantastic. And right before we get into Q&A, I just want to hammer it home one more time. So let's just talk about one more kind of case study or situation that we can kind of just hammer home here a little bit, right? So I had the opportunity to read a couple of use cases from like the medical field, education, real estate. Let's talk about, like, for those who are kind of in a classroom environment, what benefits does UC bring for the classroom and kind of expanding that reach for the students and for the professors?
Okay. Did you read my information? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah. So I think So one of the one of the coolest things I think that I was able to kind of peruse is that with this technology, it's not only for, of course, for businesses, but it can even be applied in other situations, such as if I'm a student in the classroom, or because we can't come to the classroom and we're virtual, but let's say you have a professor that's going out on the field, looking at, let's say, specimens kind of in the field, or in a different situation, if you are like an engineer and you need to present information to members that are in a boardroom, you can be physically on site, call from your mobile phone, and they can see everything live via the client and the technology that's available.
So that's the thing. So, and this goes back to the beginning where we talked about this hybrid workforce, because it's not just the remote work, it's making the world smaller, right? So like the geological dig, it's a lot of money to bring a lot of people out to come look at bones that we've dug up, or whatever, rocks, whatever it is was in your example. But
Yes.
the point is that we can now bring in all these different stakeholders just with a video conference without having to invest in people's travel or schedules, or, it's just so much more productive, so much more effective. And we can expand who is involved in that, conversation, or however it needs to be. In the education world, obviously, yes, the virtual learning. I mean, my kids were on Zoom during COVID. I mean, that was, unfortunate, but it was a reality. But it did allow them to continue their education. It allowed colleges to continue having admissions. It didn't end. But even more than that, it allows education to expand beyond their four walls. So if I was a geology professor here in New York, maybe I wanted to collaborate with a geology professor in Guam, which I could do. And now my students get the benefit of learning from a professor in Guam, or vice versa. Obviously, telemedicine is probably the biggest example of that, and how it expands. But there's a ton of things where it goes. Even just being able to record lessons to keep for posterity, or to keep for maybe users that are differently abled and maybe they have ADD or dyslexia, having the ability to record a lecture, even if it's in person, but you still turn on their video conference just to record it, so they can go back to it for posterity and study. So that there's so many applications.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that, Jamie. I think I love your theme of like anytime, anywhere, whatever we want. So that's super fantastic. And before we get into the Q&A portion, any last words from you as our speaker today to leave with our audience? Any words of wisdom?
Yeah, I do have one little gem. It's very important for the business to make sure that they're getting this service from someone that they trust, because there are a lot of over-the-top providers out there that provide these services, and they have great features. I would never take anything away from that. The features are rich and they offer all the things, but having the network is key. Plus having, I don't want to say, having one necktie to choke in the event of an issue or a concern, it goes a long way in helping resolve those problems, because voice is still the lifeblood of any business. Even with everything that we're doing digitally, it's still that human communication that is really, really important to any business. So I think it's just really important to make sure that you're trusting and you have a relationship with the provider that you purchase these services from.
Awesome. And thank you for that, Jamie. You're definitely hammered it home that at the end of the day, we're people. We need to communicate, and it is the lifeblood of all of our communication on a daily basis. So thank you for that. Let's go ahead. We have a few more minutes left on this webinar. We'll go ahead and open the floor for the participants in the attendees room. We do have a Q&A bubble. So please feel free to put in any comments there, or for those of you like Arnell did, you can also put it in the chat if that's easier for you. But yeah, please let us know any questions. Once again, we have Jamie Schofield here from Microsoft to answer any of your questions about uniting a virtual workforce and unified communication. So please, don't be shy. All right, so I guess while these questions are coming in, let me go ahead and ask Jamie a question. Oh, here we go. We do have a question from Arnell. What are the solutions that Docomo Pacific or Docomo CDMI can offer to small businesses as well? So I think I guess I can answer this question, and even Clay. But the truth is, our portfolio is pretty robust in our offering for solutions, and they do apply for both Guam and the CNMI. So Docomo Pacific UC, which you're hearing here, is actually available in the CNMI as well. So if you're interested in more information, visit our website at business.docomopacific.com and reach out to one of our reps, and we can get you kind of set up. Yeah, and please do, once again, there is a Q&A bubble at the screen, so please hit that. But they're all coming in the chat. So let me go and read this from G. Cruz. All right, I am a small business and I want to transition to a UC platform. How difficult or easy would that be? All right. I guess I'll
You
throw
want
that
me
to
to take
Jamie.
that?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Well, I will answer it, but I'll also add that this is why that relationship with the provider is extremely important. So basically, it's pretty simple. It's a matter of figuring out how many connections you need. So let's just say today that you have 3 or 4 business lines. You would meet with somebody at Docomo and tell them that you need 3 or 4 business lines, and they would then try to understand from you how many of those people either sit in an office or work remotely, and they would then design a solution for you that would meet those needs. The pricing is extremely easy to understand, so I would suggest speaking to Docomo about that. But there doesn't have to be any downtime. There can be a coordinated cutover if you want to keep the same phone numbers. So it would be very transparent when you make the switch. Plus, there is training and tools available to help you and your employees know how to use the different functions and features that we've talked about today.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
And I see, let's see here, a couple more questions. We do have a question here from Arnell. Arnell, I think this is a little too technical, at least for me, to reply, but I think we do have your email and we can get back to you on this particular response. Let's see here. We do have another question. If you are traveling internationally, would you incur any roaming charges? Right. So I think for this, we kind of addressed it in some of the conversation that we had this morning. That ultimately, if you are connected to a Wi-Fi connection, or if you're with Docomo, let's say you're roaming to Japan and you're on the data to go plan for unlimited data for the day, then you won't be incurring any additional roaming charges for individual calls because you're going to be using the internet or the data through that platform. So great question. Thank you for that. Okay, great. And then Arnell, I see your comment here. We'll definitely be reaching out to you on some feedback on your request. Thank you for that.
I see a question on here, Russ, from Anne Marie. It says, do you know if the service is approved by the U.S. Department of Defense to pass the cybersecurity review?
Great question. I need to check on that, but I know that we work with key partners such as Microsoft, once again, like who's presenting here today, that are credible and also have gone through the various vetting processes to get approval. But we can double check on that and get back to you on a separate note. Thank you. Great. So maybe we'll take a couple more questions and then we'll kind of wrap up the webinar for this morning. Any other final questions that you may have or anything you want to ask Jamie? How's the weather in New York today?
Rainy.
Rainy, okay.
Very, very rainy, yeah. I think I told you the other day it was like 90 degrees here, and now today it's like 65 and pouring.
Wow, huge shift. But yeah, so I guess, we do have one more question. Go ahead, Clay, would you like to read this out for the audience?
Yeah. So someone's asking how cost effective is unified communications. And as we were explaining before, as a provider, Docomo does offer simple plans and tiers that are affordable within your budget. And compared to the traditional on-premise site of adding these features and having it costly for you as a company, we've kind of limited down to just 3 plans that you can subscribe to. So, and Jamie has been pointing this out, that it's scalable and flexible, but also affordable, so that our customers won't have to break the bank. But yes, that's one of the main key benefits of unified communications.
The one thing I would just add there, Clea, and I said it a few times, so I just want to kind of drive it home, is that there's no capital expense with a hosted system.
Correct.
So it's for small businesses, it's just a monthly expense. For maybe larger businesses, it's a easy budget approval process because you're not looking for a CapEx budget. And it's a very quick quick and easy setup and sell process.
Understood.
Thanks,
Well, thank
Jamie.
you for that.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. And up on the screen, we just want to let everyone know, if you want to learn more about Unified Communications or any of our other products and solutions, you can visit our business website at business.docomopacific.com. And for those of you on the desktop computer right now, we do have a QR code on the screen. You can scan and quickly visit our website. But please take a look at our site, gather all that information you need, and also, give us a call or submit a request form through the website for any information, and one of our sales reps will be reaching out to you for information. So once again, we want to thank Jamie. Thank you so much for a wonderful presentation and a lot of wealth and information that really we can use to really take us to the next level and to that digital transformation. So we very much appreciate it, and a warm Suzus Maasi, which is thank you from us here at Docomo Pacific. And to all of our viewers as well, thank you for attending the first ever Docomo Pacific Tech Talks, and look forward to many more to come. And Clea, any last words from you?
Yeah, no, thank you, Jamie. It's been wonderful. Can I just say the wealth of knowledge you bring to the table? A lot of this is really useful for us as a provider, but also as partners with Metaswitch and with Microsoft. So I thank you and our viewers for attending. And if Russ hasn't mentioned it, a recording of this webinar will actually be up in our resources webpage as well. So do check that out, and please stay tuned for our future sessions for Tech Talks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Thank you for having me, y'all.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Jamie.
Thank you. And once again, visit our website. We have all the great resources there. And also this recording will be uploaded as soon as possible. Once again, thank you. Have a great morning and have a great Holiday Friday. Adios.
Thank you all.
Thank
Bye.
you.